The Titanic was a marvel of its time. It was the largest luxury passenger ship in the world. It took 3 years and a whopping $7.5 million to build. Imagine the excitement around it. It was not just any ship, it was a symbol of human achievement and wealth.
And it wasn't just about size or cost. The Titanic was like a floating hotel. It had many decks full of luxury. Can you picture a grand staircase shining under a skylight? There was also a gymnasium, a swimming pool, and so many other grand features for the guests to enjoy.
Now, let's talk about the lifeboats. The Titanic could hold 2,240 passengers, but it had only 20 lifeboats. That was quite risky, wasn't it? The owners thought there was no need for more because the ship would not sink. After all, it had 16 watertight compartments in the hull.
Yes, many people called it the unsinkable ship. The press loved to write about its grandeur. But as we know, things don't always go as planned. The belief that it could never sink proved to be a terrible mistake. Yet, at that time, everyone was so very sure of their creation.
On April 10, 1912, the Titanic set sail from Southampton. It was such a big event that many people came to watch. Imagine seeing that huge ship. It was not just another ship. It was a symbol of dreams and hopes. Everyone wanted to be a part of this journey, to make history by stepping onto this grand vessel.
Yes, and guiding this enormous ship was Captain Edward Smith, a well-respected man. He was in charge of taking the Titanic safely across the ocean. As the ship sailed away, it made stops in Cherbourg, France, and then Queenstown, Ireland, picking up even more passengers. Each stop brought new faces from different places, all with their own stories.
The destination was New York City, a city full of lights and opportunities. As the Titanic moved through the North Atlantic, everyone on board felt a mix of hope and excitement. The passengers came from different walks of life, some rich, some looking for a new start. All of them were aboard for this unforgettable journey across the ocean.
But as they moved forward, warnings of icebergs began to come in. Other ships had seen these dangers, but the journey still continued. Even with these warnings, the sense of adventure and joy on the Titanic did not fade. No one thought the ship could meet any disaster. After all, it was called the unsinkable ship, wasn't it?
On April 14th, the night was dark and cold. Frederick Fleet was the lookout on the Titanic, and he noticed something dangerous. It was a big iceberg in the ship's path. Can you imagine seeing such a thing and knowing you had to warn everyone? But there was a big problem. The binoculars that would help see far away were not there. They were locked, and no one had the key.
Oh, that's a big issue. So, without binoculars, seeing the iceberg was hard, right? The officers knew they had to act quickly when they heard Fleet's warning. They tried to turn the huge ship away, but it was too late. The Titanic couldn't move fast enough to avoid the iceberg. It hit the iceberg on its side, and the damage was done. The iceberg tore holes into the ship's hull, causing real danger.
At first, people on board didn't know how bad it was. They still felt safe and thought the ship was fine. Captain Smith, along with Thomas Andrews, who helped design the ship, went to check the damage. What they found was troubling. Water was coming in, and 6 of the ship's compartments were filling up fast.
That's scary. It's like they were the ones who could really see what was happening. They knew what this meant. It was bad news. Knowing the situation, Captain Smith sent out a distress call over the radio. They needed help, and they needed it quickly. It was a race against time to save lives on the Titanic.
As the clock struck midnight, it was time to begin loading the lifeboats. But there was much confusion and worry among the passengers. Many people didn't know what was happening. It was a dark and cold night, making it harder for everyone to organize. The officers were trying to keep things under control, but it was not easy.
Yes, it must have been quite scary. They had the rule of women and children first. But this also made things tricky. Some of the lifeboats were not filled to their full capacity. This was because many people didn't feel the urgency, and others thought the ship was still safe.
That is correct. Officers like Murdoch and Lightoller had different ways of understanding the rule. Murdoch thought men could join if there were no women and children nearby, while Lightoller allowed only women and children. Meanwhile, the ship Carpathia, which was 58 miles away, heard the distress calls. It started coming to help the Titanic.
That was a bit of hope in a tough situation. They also sent distress flares into the sky, hoping other ships might see them. On top of that, The bow of the Titanic was sinking deeper into the water. The deck became very chaotic. People were rushing around, trying to find a way off the ship.
As panic set in, there were only a few lifeboats left. The ship was sinking and people were trying to find a way to escape. The deck was slippery and at a high angle now, making it tough for passengers to stay on their feet. Many were scared, rushing around and unsure of what to do. This was a scary moment as the cold night made everything even worse.
Yes, with the ship's deck so steep, many people fell into the freezing water. The last lifeboat had left, leaving about 1,500 people still on the ship. It must have been terrifying to be in that situation. They knew the icy cold water meant great danger. Even for those who didn't fall, finding safety seemed impossible. They were left with little time and few choices in the dark, cold night.
Captain Smith, who was in charge, said it was every man for himself. This meant everyone had to save themselves as best as they could. As time went on, the stern of the ship broke off under the weight and stress. The front part of the Titanic was gone, sunken beneath the sea. This was a big moment when hope seemed to vanish. Many must have felt alone and scared.
Sadly, the cold water was the cause for many deaths. Hypothermia set in quickly, leaving people with very little chance to survive. Only 4 people were found alive when some lifeboats returned to help. It was a sad and tragic scene to witness. The crew and passengers who stayed in the water faced a hopeless situation. It was a sight that left a lasting mark in history.
As the cold night continued, the ship Carpathia saw the distress flares from the Titanic at 3:30 a.m. It was a sign of hope amidst the tragedy. The crew of the Carpathia knew they had to hurry to save any survivors. By 4:10 a.m., the Carpathia arrived at the scene and began their rescue operation. The crew worked quickly to find and gather the lifeboats in the dark, cold sea.
Even with the Carpathia's efforts, only 705 people survived this terrible night. It was a very sad time because over 1,500 people lost their lives. This tragedy left a deep mark on history. Those who survived had witnessed something heartbreaking. They had stories to tell about that terrifying night. Their accounts helped the world understand the events and learn from them.
The stories of the Titanic survivors were very meaningful. They spoke of cold, fear, and bravery. The lessons learned from their experience changed maritime rules forever. New safety laws and new ship designs came after this disaster, all to make sure such a tragedy would not happen again. The legacy of the Titanic included these important changes that prioritized people's safety at sea.
The Titanic story went beyond just a tragedy at sea. It had a big impact on the world and made way for many stories and memorials. People stayed interested in it for many years. Books, movies, and exhibitions continued to share this sad but fascinating story. The Titanic taught people about human ambition and the importance of safety and preparation. Life can be surprising and unpredictable, just like the ocean on that night. It's a story that stays with us, showing us the strength of the human spirit. Thank you for being with us today. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe so we can share more tales with you. Your support helps keep these stories alive and remembered. Until next time.